Okay, so I've got that we've got a couple of motions pending today. We have the department's motion for change of placement. We have Ms. Harding's petition and intervention on behalf of the current placement. And I believe there was also a motion for further orders that was filed by Ms. Crouch Bartlett in this case. Ms. Harding's clients, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, have intervened. Mr. Best, is the department opposed to the intervention filed by the current placement?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe we would be.
Okay, what about you, Mr. Manuel?
Yes, Your Honor, we are.
Mr. Hilly?
I'm ready, Your Honor. What's your question? I'm sorry. So many things going on in my head. What is your question, Your Honor?
Okay, so the question, Mr. Hilly, is whether you are opposed to Ms. Harding's intervention on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez.
I didn't address it with my client. Darn it. Let me text him right quick.
Okay, well, that's okay, Mr. Hilly. Obviously, we already have some people that are opposed. So, Ms. Crouch Bartlett, what's your position today on the intervention?
Your Honor, I'm strongly supportive of the intervention.
Strongly supportive of the intervention. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't cancel out an opposed. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take up the change of placement, and then I have read, Ms. Crouch Bartlett, your motion for further orders as to the change of placement. I think what we can do is handle both the motion for change of placement and motion for further orders simultaneously with one another. And then at the conclusion of that, we will handle the petition and intervention.
And I apologize. I just got clarification from my client. We are opposed. He's opposed. Thank you.
Okay. So, Ms. Harding, I'm going to allow you to participate. I do want to take care of the motion for change of placement, the motion for further orders, and then we'll address the petition and intervention next. But you may participate today. Okay, so Mr. Best, tell me what it is that the department is seeking on its motion for change of placement today.
Yes, Your Honor. My understanding is that the placement has requested that Jaden be located to another placement. Specifically, the department would like to place the child into a foster placement, as we have previously denied a home study for the great-grandparents. It is my understanding that Ms. Crouch Bartlett is going to advocate for the great-grandparents to be the new placement.
Okay, so let's kind of go one by one. Mr. Bass, so as far as the department's position on the placement of each of the three children, we have the oldest child in this case, which is Adrian. What is the department's position on placement of Adrian at the conclusion of the period?
It is my understanding that Adrian it's fine to remain where he is right now. And so we don't really see a reason to move him, assuming that I'm not misunderstood what the placement's wanting to do. And I don't believe we need to worry too much about what's going on with Noah, unless of course someone else wants to raise that, as an issue for either of those other children. I believe it was just Jaden that we had a
okay. Well, I think you're probably gonna have to phone a friend here in a minute. Mr. Manuel, what's your position today?
Your Honor, we're opposed to the department's motion to change the placement to foster. That being said, we are in agreement with Ms. Crouch Bartlett's motion to change the two children, Adrian and Jaden, to Miss Bellia. However, we would also request that Noah go there as well. So we would like all three children to go to Bellia. And just for the court's record, my client wants to keep her children together. That's why she wants Noah to go with them.
Okay, Mr. Hilly, your client have a position on
My
motion for
client
change of placement?
wants them to stay together with, again, the same, like Mr. Mother attorney stated, all together with Belly and all together.
Okay, Ms. Crouch Bartlett.
Your Honor, Noah has expressed a deep desire to remain in the current placement with his paternal grandparents, Olivia. I think it would be detrimental to his emotional well-being to be moved from that placement. I am today requesting, and a little bit different from the motion I filed a few days ago, that Adrian remain with the current placement so long as he is okay with remaining there. And Your Honor, I have a number of reasons for that. And we can go into that with testimony, but I just want to make clear that my request for Jaden would be that he would be placed in the home of Bellium as soon as possible, and that would be the best place for him right now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for everybody's position, Mr. Best. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your case in chief on your motion.
Yes, sir. And I'd start with actually, I'd like to call Sarah Wardlow, the supervisor. What is your relationship to this case?
I'm the conservatorship unit supervisor.
Okay. And this case is currently assigned to you?
It's currently assigned to the worker Amanda Swafford.
Okay. But you're her supervisor?
Correct.
Okay. And how long has it been placed with either Amanda Swafford or another caseworker that was in your what do you call it, that reports to you?
It's been in our unit since December.
Okay. And were you the one who previously denied the home study for the great grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. What about the home study led you to believe that the correct course of action was to deny the home study?
So there are numerous safety concern issues within the home study. One of the primary issues is that the great grandparents reported that they require the assistance of their adult children. They come over typically every day to help them do tasks. The great grandfather is the only person with a license in the home, but he has 7 prior DWIs. The last one was approximately over 20 years ago, but he reports he does still drink, which is a serious concern for the department. Neither grandparent or the great grandparents only have a landline, and there have been cell phone contact issues in this case between the parents and children. So lack of understanding of that would cause a safety concern with contact with the children. The great grandmother reported during her home study that she would require assistance in being at appointments with the children, like doctor's appointments, dental appointments, from someone else, because she would not remember what was said or would lack the understanding of what was said, which indicates she does not have the ability to be a primary medical consenter, because she would not be able to recall those choices or the concerns with the children. The placement didn't really have a realistic transportation plan. The grandfather works 5 days a week, and the great grandmother does not have a license or a vehicle. They reported one of their backup plans was the 20-year-old sibling, who also does not have a driver's license and should not be driving the children. There are the maternal grandmother. It was listed as a frequent visitor to the home. She was requested to provide her information for a background check and declined to do so, and even stated that no one would stop her from going to her mother's house at one point. The home study itself was lacking a relative reference. And there's a general safety concern given the grandparents' inability to care for themselves and their ability to correct the behavior of the children, given that current placement is giving notice because of the children's behavior and ongoing concerns, that if they are not currently able to correct those behaviors and maintain, that the great grandparents would not be able to maintain, and it would create an unsafe situation for the great grandparents as well.
Are the adult children of the the great grandparents, are they coming over to help take care of those two folks?
They
the two
are,
great
yes. Yes,
Okay.
and the grandmother in this case, not the great grandmother who was proposed placement. The grandmother was going over to the home on a regular basis, and the uncle of these children is also going to the home on a almost daily basis.
Okay, Ms. Wardlow, this is Judge Stuckey. Can we use names? Because I'm trying to take notes, and it's kind of, I just want to make sure I know who everybody is. So when I'm writing down aunts, uncles, grandparents, it'd be a lot easier to refer to them by name if you know them. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we keep saying great grandparents. What's the name of that of those people, of those folks?
The great grandparents are Mr. and Miss Marrero.
Okay, and then we referenced earlier the grandmother of the child. What is her name?
Her name is Angelica.
All right, and then we also referenced the great grandparents' children earlier. What are their names? The ones that are coming by to assist them.
So that would be the grandmother who is and I'm not sure if it's Angelica or Angelica, and then their son is David.
Would it be fair to say that we do not believe that the great grandparents themselves would be able to care for the children, any of the children on their own?
No, given that all of the reports indicate that they require assistance on a regular basis, it does not appear that they can take care of even one of these children.
Okay. So then the concern would be, taking this further, then the concern would be they're just going to be, the child's going to live there, and the rest of the family is going to have to provide the actual care if the child was actually placed there. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that he would at some point just eventually do whatever he felt like all the time, because there was no corrective adult in the home that's able to maintain his behavior.
And he's currently not willing to behave just when he's asked to from the current placement. Is that correct?
Correct. It's been an ongoing behavioral concern with him being bullying his siblings and things like that.
Okay. All right. Pass the witness.
Mr. Maywell.
You mentioned that the DWIs were over 20 years ago for the maternal great grandfather, but then you also referenced that he drinks. Did he report how often he currently drinks? Do you know?
I believe the home study says essentially occasionally. His last report was, I believe, 2 months ago in the home study. However, given the chronicity of his alcohol-related offenses, it would be a concern that he was drinking at all.
Okay, even knowing that those offenses were 20 years ago, that's still a concern for you?
Correct.
Okay. How is the fact that they only have a landline, how is that a safety concern for the department?
So the great grandparents are not aware of how to use a cell phone. So in attempting to monitor his access to parents and that those communication issues that are already occurring, I don't believe that they are aware or capable of doing that at this time.
Okay, I guess I don't think that answered my question. How is the fact that they don't have a cell phone, but they do have a landline, how is that a safety concern that would disqualify their home study?
The cell phone or the only having a landline itself did not disqualify the home study, but it is a concern that he would have the unfettered access to communication through his parents. That's already been a concern in this case, because they're not able to monitor that. Okay,
but you can agree with me that them having a landline at least allows them, if they had an emergency or they needed to reach doctors or anything like that, they would be able to do those things for the children, correct?
Through their landline, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that they would need help with doctor appointments and recalling things in the doctor appointments. Do you know have they provided someone that would be assisting them in getting to those appointments or going to those appointments with them?
They indicated that that their son, David, would be that person, or the 20-year-old sister of our children, who is Karina, would be those individuals. However, Karina does not have a driver's license either.
So let's start with David. Did the department do any preliminary background checks on him?
We did, yes.
And is there any concerns with him?
No, he is actually approved to supervise the great-grandparents' contacts with the kids at this point.
Okay, and so with him being around and able to help out, is that, I mean, would the department be okay if, let's say that the children were actually placed in the great-grandparents' home today? Would you be okay with Mr. Marrero being over there to help out however much the grandparents needed?
He could, yes, but the issue comes to things like he's not a medical consenter because he's not placement. So if placement's not capable of making medical decisions independently or remembering those things, the department has concerns that they would be placement if they're not capable of doing those appointments.
Okay, I'd like to help focus the testimony. So for all the attorneys, I want to concentrate on two things. We need to first know that a potential placement or the current placement is capable of meeting the children's needs, independent of any assistance from anybody else. The assistance is a backup, but if those people do not reside in the home, we need to get through that threshold issue first of what they can and cannot do on their own. The backup is obviously, potentially important facts, but they're two separate issues. And so don't skip over the first one to take care of it potentially in the second one, because if the people are not living there, they're just going to be there limited time. So the initial placement or the current placement needs to be able to independently meet the needs of the children.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Wardlow, do you recall the last hearing that we had? Were you present?
Yes.
Was there testimony at that hearing that, from Ms. Martinez that the only thing they're really helping out with is transportation? Do you recall that?
Are you referring to the grandmother's testimony?
No, to Ms. Martinez's testimony that the only thing that Mr. Marrero or her mother was helping with was really transportation for the great-grandparents. Do you recall that?
I do recall that statement, but that's inaccurate even from the great-grandparents report.
Okay, I have no further questions then, Judge.
Mr. Hilly?
So father thinks that they already have gone to all their appointments. What other appointments are outstanding?
Are you speaking of regarding the children?
Yes. Like when
So
it comes to transportation needs.
So they will have ongoing therapy appointments that they need to go to. There are parent-child visits appointments that they need to attend. Ongoing, there can be medical appointments. There's still numerous transportation requirements.
Okay. Well, at this point, my client made me aware that the grandmother is actually available to testify. So I'm going to send her the meeting ID shortly. Thank you, and I have no further questions.
Mr. Harding?
I'm sorry, Ms. Wardlow, is it your understanding that some of the boys are experiencing emotional or psychological issues at this time?
Are you referring to just our boys or all of the boys in the current placement home?
No, your boys in the current placement home.
Yes, they are.
Okay, and in fact, one of them has a psychiatric evaluation set for Monday.
Correct.
And so we don't know what kind of recommendations, therapy, or interventions are going to be required or recommended as a result of that evaluation. Is that correct?
That's correct. But given the current concerns, therapy would be a basic recommendation.
Okay. And specifically, what child has a psychiatric appointment next week?
I believe they are all supposed to. I believe it's currently Jaden that has it on Monday.
Okay. And Does Noah have other half siblings that reside with him in the current placement with the Hernandezes?
He does. He has 2 other brothers in that home.
Okay. Is it fair to say that the reason that the department asked for this hearing was because it was your understanding that you were directed to keep all 3 of these siblings together?
That and that the department does not agree to place with the great grandparents, which I believe is everyone else's desire at this point.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Mr. Crouch Bartlett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Wardlow, is it accurate that the department's only current placement option for Jaden, aside from the great grandparents, an emergency shelter in the Houston area?
I actually received an email a little bit ago from CPU that there were 2 shelter placement options, so I'm not quite aware of where the second one may be. But that was because we had searched for a placement with all 3 children together. So there may be a closer placement option should it just be Jaden by himself, or even Jaden and Adrian together.
And so is it your testimony today that you think that Jaden would be, that it would be in his best interest to be placed in an emergency shelter as opposed to his paternal great grandparents? Maternal, excuse me.
Yes, I don't believe that the maternal great grandparents can appropriately care for him.
Are you familiar with Casey family programs?
I am, yes.
Do you think that if Casey family accepted a referral from the department to provide wraparound services for this family, if Jaden were to be placed with the Moreros, that could help significantly ease your concerns?
No.
If Jaden were placed in an emergency shelter in Houston, he would lose his current therapist, Ms. Rhonda Caffey, with whom he's been working for the last month or so. Is that correct?
There's a potential to maintain virtual therapy, given that the shelter would not be the least restrictive setting for him, and we would have to continue to search for placement options. So we would just have to work with that and see if virtual could be approved to continue.
And if he were to go to an emergency shelter, he could only stay there for 90 days. Is that correct? Before he would have to move yet again? Is that right?
Correct, unless an extension was granted. But the department would continue to search for relative options during that time period as well.
And is it your understanding that right now Jaden is having the most significant issues in the home with his very negative outbursts and aggressive behavior? Is that correct?
That's been the report from placement, yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Bast, any redirect?
Yes. When do we need to have Jaden out of the current placement?
So the original date provided to us from placement was this Friday. They did indicate that they would give us until next Friday, given that he does have a psychological scheduled on Monday, and that may help find a better placement option for him, depending on if we get that back quickly.
Okay. And by this Friday, you mean today, right?
Yes, sir.
Pass witness. Address, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Manuel?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll call my client, Ms. Martinez.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Martinez, right now we're just dealing with the motion for placement, changing Jaden. So, and then dealing with the home study from the grandparents. So my questions to you are going to be based on that. Do you understand that? Okay. So dealing with your great grandparents' home, you heard the safety concerns from the department. First of all, in regards to the daily assistance that they need, can you tell the court, to your understanding, what assistance that is, if any?
They don't have any. The only concern was in the past was because my grandpa's schedule, because he works at a school, so he worked during the school hours, but now he switched them, so he'll be able to be here in the mornings and the afternoons. And
okay, so just to be clear, they needed assistance when he was gone, but now that he's going to be home during the day, they will not need assistance. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, he's gonna be home.
Okay. Do they have a vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And does your maternal great grandfather drive?
Yes.
Okay. Does he have a driver's license to your knowledge?
Yes.
Now you said that he had changed his work schedule. So does that mean that he'll be home all day when the kids are there?
Oh no, he'll be home till about 4 o'clock.
Okay. And then so then what times will he work?
But yeah. He leaves around the afternoon to go to work. So other than that, I mean, he'll be here to take
Okay.
them where.
Do you know what hours he will be working moving forward?
I think he goes from 2 to 11. 2:30 to
Okay.
11 o'clock.
No.
Okay,
no one
hold
else can
on.
talk.
Wait. Okay, Miss Martinez, is there somebody else there in the room with you?
My grandma was asking her what time my grandpa gets off of work.
Okay, I want you to listen to me very closely, Miss Martinez. This is your testimony, not somebody else's testimony.
Okay.
So I do not want you talking to anybody else. I don't want anybody else talking to you.
Okay.
You
Sorry.
understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so please tell everybody in the room with you to leave the room or stop talking to you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll wait till you do that.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Manuel.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, Miss Martinez, when Mr. David Marrero and your mother Angelica Marrero were going over to assist, what is it your understanding that they were assisting with?
I'm not sure. I guess she would just come by to visit.
Okay, so they're not. Do you know? I mean, are they assisting with transportation, or do you have any knowledge at all?
No, they don't get rides or anything. My mom would just come and visit.
Okay. Do you believe that your great grandparents are capable of handling all three of these children?
Yes, I've lived in their home before, and they've helped me raise them since they were babies.
Okay.
They're all they know, really. I mean, they helped me raise my kids.
Do you believe that they would be able to get all of these children to school and appointments that they need to be at?
Yes, sir.
Do you think they could do that without any assistance?
Yes. Their
Okay,
doctor in Austin down the street from where they live. So, I mean, it's probably even more convenient so they don't have to come from Lockhart.
Okay, and just one other question in regards to the testimony about your great grandfather, Mr. Marrero, and his drinking. Has he had any further incidents with the law regarding his drinking that you're aware of recently? No. Okay, and do you know, to the best of your knowledge, how frequently does he drink?
I haven't seen him drink in years.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions, Judge.
Ms. Martinez, if the court were to order that you and that you stay away from the placement with your grandmother, Belia Marrero, and her husband, would you follow that order or have any difficulty following that order?
I would have no problem. They're here and okay, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
And additionally, your mother, she does frequent the home to see your grandmother. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I was told she had to sign a paper. So my kids come on the weekends because they come to my grandparents' house every Saturday for 4 hours a day. And in order for that visit to be approved, my mother had to sign a paper stating that she would not come during those hours. So I'm pretty sure she would have a problem is coming anymore at all if they weren't placed here.
And could you assist with ensuring that your mother is not violating that, that safety plan?
Yes.
And just to clarify, the physical condition of your grandparents, Belia Marrero and her husband, David, is it, do you have any concerns about their current physical health?
No, I don't.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ma'am, were you able to hear the testimony of the supervisor a moment ago?
Yes.
And do you understand that the contents of the home study that we're discussing are mostly things that they told the person conducting the home study?
I'm not sure. I mean, from what she said, I guess so, but I guess it was just a misunderstanding.
Okay. So the exact opposite thing. So when we understand things to be the exact opposite of what you're telling us that they are, that's a misunderstanding.
Yes, sir.
All right, pass the witness.
I call Josh Hernandez.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Hilly.
Mr. Hernandez, you heard what the mother just testified to. Can you tell the judge what are your wishes as to the placement? What do you have to add to in addition to what the mother just testified to?
My wishes are what the judge spoke on prior to the last case, that the kids stayed together. You know, the grandparents are very competent. They're able to move around. They have a vehicle. They have a cell phone and a house phone. You know, they're able to commute and be able to take care of the kids and the needs. You know, they're able to provide for them. They've been stable for 50, 60 years in the same house. You know, the schools for the kids are 100 yards from the house. You know, they can just walk right here, not even half a block. And the elementary school's there for the boys. The school for the older kid is half a mile away, and it's 2 or 3 blocks down the street. So there's no mishaps or anything getting the kids to school or anything. You know, the kids can make it to school. You know, a lot of kids in the neighborhoods, you know, once you register, a lot of kids walk to the schools. You know, they're here. Grandma, you know, she's very able to walk, and she's very alive and very not your normal typical elderly woman, you know. And I think that the CPS lady, the Sarah Warlow, is biased towards elderly people. You know, I think that's not right, you know, because age is nothing but a number. That doesn't stop people from doing, you know, the grandmother.
Is the grandmother now together? Is she close to the mother in another room right now? And is she able to be called as a witness right now?
Mr. Hilly, let's handle one thing at a time, please. Like, let's have the testimony of your client, and then we'll have to determine if someone else one is available and whether or not they've heard, you know, testimony that during this proceeding it might be excluded.
Yes, and Mr. Hernandez, also please tell us, do you think that they're able to independently take care of all the children's needs, and with the children being kept together?
Oh yes, they're very capable of doing that. They've been able to do that. They help us, you know what I'm saying, along this thing we call life here with the children too. You know, the children are very attached to their grandparents. They love them a lot. You know, they're very close to it. I think that to separate one from the other because of typical behaviors, you know, Jaden acts like that in outbursts because he's not. I'm not gonna say he's not being shown attention, but he's not with his parents. You know, any kid's gonna act out like that. All the kids act out in their own ways. You know, you know, my kids are hyperactive. You know, and it's not his fault that he was born the way that he is. You know what I mean? It's not.
Okay,
it's
Mr.
not
Hilly, let's work on asking questions.
Yes, Your Honor.
I
Mr.
don't
Hernandez,
want narratives. I want
what
questions.
age is it? What age is the grandmother, and what age is she? When you watch her every day on a daily basis, what age does she appear to be acting as of? Like, can you tell us like how old she actually is and how active she actually is for her age?
Okay, Mr.
What she does
Hilly,
every day.
I'm not interested in how old she is. I'm worried about whether she can, you know, take care of these kids.
grandma's
The
very
age
that's
doesn't
my
make
point.
any difference
That's
to me.
my
And secondly,
that's
I thought we had agreed that we were going to be using names, not classifications. So let's use names, Mr. Hilly. Mr. Hernandez, go ahead.
Miss
John.
Belly is very capable of handling these kids. You know, grandmother Miss Belly Marrero
And
is very alive and moves without any assistance. You know, the woman still goes, does her hair. You know, she cleans the house better than people that are younger than her. You know, and the woman is very alive. You know, she's very
but
capable.
tell us, tell us like on a daily basis, like what time she gets up and what does she does. She doesn't have to go to work every day. So in other words, she's able to full time take care of all the children's needs, right?
Grandma Belair has a routine. She wakes up early in the morning as she has for the last 50 something years. She gets up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever she needs to. She makes breakfast for her husband. She goes to bed at 9 o'clock every night. You know, there's a routine, you know, it's here. And she's able to care for these kids.
And over the last time, how long ago did they all stay with her? How long ago was it that they all stayed with her?
When she was approved for probably when my son Noah was born, and that's when everybody lived in the house here except for myself. I wasn't here, you know.
And how long would they stay there?
They stayed here until the case was finished. They were approved then.
Okay.
Wow.
And in other words, they're very much bonded, and she has shown in the past she was able to provide for them full time, indefinitely, without any kind of outside help.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to tell the judge?
And I hope that you make a just decision and not separate these kids. It's just because of what CPS is requesting. They need to stay with family. That's their primary goal, is to stay with family right now. The only option for us to do here is with grandmother Belia Marrero and David Marrero, which have apt enough help to be able to do things by themselves, you know.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Hardy.
Mr. Hernandez, do you have other sons?
Yes, I do.
And where do they live?
They reside with my mother and my father.
So they reside with Noah at this time, correct?
But Noah's there due to placement.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Okay, just ask another question, Ms. Hardy.
So, Mr. Hernandez, currently today, your three sons are living together with your parents, Jose and Olivia Hernandez.
Yes, right now, yes.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Crouch Barlow.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Best.
Just to be clear, what is your connection to the children?
My connection to the children, I'm their father, you know.
So to be clear, are you the father of all the three boys in this case?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not just the father of Noah?
I'm the father of Joshua, Jacob, Noah biologically. I've raised Adrian and Jaden since they were babies.
Okay. But you're not the biological father of Adrian and Jaden, correct?
No, I'm the stepfather.
Okay. Pass witness.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hilly.
In other words, all three children consider you as their main father figure, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell the judge?
No, we've already done that, Mr. Hilly.
Pass the witness. Pass the witness. Understand
Ms.
that the
Hardy.
grandmother may be in another room where the mother is. May I please see whether the mother can go to the other room to see whether I can put as a witness the maternal grandmother, Belia Marrero, please?
Your Honor, I'd object to her being called as a witness. It is very clear that she was there during at least part of the testimony of the respondent mother and possibly earlier than that. I'm not 100% sure, but Mr. Hilly's the one who invoked the rule, and since she's been present during part of the testimony, it would not be just for her to be allowed to testify at this time, Your Honor.
And Ms. Harding, I saw you with your hand up too. Was there something you wanted to say?
My argument was going to be similar to Mr. Best's.
Okay. Well, let me then, is Mr. David Marrero available?
Mr. Hilly, you're not fishing, sir. I mean, if you don't know what the witness is and you
I
haven't
rest,
talked to him,
I rest, Your Honor.
Ms. Harding, do you have witnesses you wish to call today?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Miss Amanda Swafford.
Go ahead, Miss Tardy.
Ms. Swafford, how are you related to this case?
I am the CPS caseworker assigned.
And in regards to the grandmother Belia Marrero, have you had conversations with her about her ability to care for these children?
Yes, I have.
And what has she reported to you?
That she is old and needs the help of her adult children to help care for her.
Okay.
Or assist.
And in regards to Noah, has he been placed with the Hernandezes with his siblings since the beginning of this case?
Yes.
And what's your understanding of his contact with the Hernandezes prior to the CPS filing?
That he had quite a bit of contact with them. Mr. Hernandez, father, lives next door, and he would, run back and forth between the two residents. He spent time with them on vacations. They've also raised him off and on when father was in prison. So they've had quite some contact with him.
And have the Hernandezes been open with you about their concerns regarding the behavior of Noah's two older half siblings?
Yes.
Is this a new concern that they've had?
No.
Okay. And what have been the natures of the concerns that they've shared with you regarding Jaden?
So Jaden will bully his siblings. He
Judge,
will.
I'm gonna object to hearsay at this point, as they have not been, they're not parties yet.
I'll rephrase the question. Based on your communication with the Hernandezes, are they asking that the two older boys be moved merely because they're not related to those boys?
No.
Okay. And at this time, do you believe that the appointment of both or either of the parents as managing conservators would significantly impair the children's physical health or emotional development?
Yes.
Okay. How long has the CPS case been going on?
We got custody on December 21st of 2022.
And how much progress have the parents made in completing the services that have been ordered in this case?
So they have completed their psychological assessments and started therapy. Mother did her oath. So there's some progress, but we have observed absolutely no behavioral changes. We continue to actually have more concerns.
Okay. And so in regards to Ms. Martinez, she testified that she could comply with an order to stay away from her grandmother house, the Bella Marrero house. Did you hear that testimony?
Yes.
Is she currently ordered to not have telephone contact with her boys?
She's court-ordered to not have any unsupervised contact.
Okay. Do you have knowledge that she has violated that court order?
Yes, numerous times.
And how has she done that?
She continues to call and text, at this time, Adrian, because Jaden's phone is broken, despite the court order when we were here a couple of weeks ago.
And I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Have you previously interacted with the great-grandparents?
I have interacted with the great-grandmother.
Okay. Have you observed the great-grandfather before?
I've only observed him walking into the home. I haven't met with him.
Okay, let's use names, please.
And how mobile did he appear to be when you observed him?
He was able to walk without any assistance, but he was slower when he did walk. It was just a brief from the car to the front door that I saw.
Okay. And from Miss Moreno, when you interacted with her, what did you observe about her behaviors?
So I've interacted with her a few times. The most recent was in the middle of February when I brought over a safety plan for her and her son to sign. He ended up reading that to her and basically, basically said that they would sign. It was more of him taking the lead in that conversation. And it was similar to that when I met with her at the CPS office. Her daughter was yelling at me and stating how everything has been done wrong. And she would just kind of say that she would agree and that she wouldn't have anyone to care for her. So I haven't seen her be vocal or take the lead in any conversation. It's more of who she's with.
Okay. And does it appear that that her children are the ones that are mostly taking care of her?
Yes, she in the home study, it's reported that they can come to the home daily.
Okay. Did Miss Moreno ever say anything that made you that collaborated with the idea that she was elderly and needed others to take care of her?
Just that she stated
Objection to hearsay.
Sustained.
All right, pass the witness.
Well, first, I guess my question for the court is, I thought we were just dealing with the motion to change placement, but Ms. Harding did bring in some questions regarding her petition and intervention. So would you like me to cross on that right now?
I don't know. Mr. Manuel, I'm just listening to the testimony. The testimony I heard is that Ms. Harding is seeking placement with her client. That's what I heard. So
Okay. Ms. Swafford, what is the permanency plan in this case?
at this time it's family reunification with a concurrent goal of relative adoption.
Okay, and the primary plan is family reunification with one of the parents, correct?
At this time, yes, it could
Okay.
change.
Sure, but at this time it is with one of the parents.
Yes,
Does that mean that the goal for the department is to work with the parents and allow them to do services and alleviate your concerns?
yes.
Okay. So when you testified to Ms. Harding's question about the parents being a detriment to the children's physical or mental health, you're not talking about the long-term goal of this case, correct?
Correct. I'm talking about currently.
Okay.
I don't know at the end.
And that is why you are currently involved, is to alleviate those concerns, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
Ms. Harding.
Your Honor, I would call Olivia Hernandez.
Okay, so Ms. Harding, earlier I'd said we weren't going to cover the intervention, but if you're going to call your client, you might as well cover that, and then I'll let everybody cross on those things.
Okay. So Ms. Hernandez, how are you related to the three boys that are the subject of this CPS case?
I am Noah Hernandez's biological grandmother, and Jaden and Adrian are his siblings.
And are you the mother of Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, I am.
Now, let's talk about your contact with Noah. When was he placed in your home by CPS?
On December 21st, his brothers were brought to the house. Noah was already present at my house. December 21, 2022. He was already at my house. Due to him being here for school, he was already present.
And what do you mean he was there with you for school?
We have been putting him on the bus for school since August.
So he'd been at your home every morning.
Yes.
And what in the afternoons when at the end of the school day? What happened then?
I am here to pick him up. All the kids, actually, the ones that I have custody of, including Jaden too, because Jaden had been staying next door with his stepfather since probably about September. So I am here to put them on the bus in the morning at 6:40, and I'm here at the evening when they get off the bus at about a little bit before 4 o'clock daily.
And then does Noah have any other half siblings?
Yes, he does.
And who are those half siblings?
Age 11 and 10.
And are those boys?
They also live with me.
Okay. And do you and your husband have managing conservatorship of those two boys?
Yes, we do.
And those were from orders out of Hayes County, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about these boys and why you're asking that they be moved. Tell me why you're asking that Jaden be moved from your home.
Jaden becomes defiant and bullying mainly a lot with his brothers, including Adrian. Mainly he likes to pick a lot along Noah. But he does it with Adrian too by taking his belongings, causing strife between him, and Adrian will try to recover his belongings. And there's always the tension between those two brothers, the two older brothers.
And those two boys, is that tension, is it just being felt by Noah? Is it having ramifications on all the children in your house?
All of them are feeling stressed a lot.
Have any of the boys talked to you about seeing things that aren't present?
Yes.
And who has reported to you that they're having a visual hallucination?
Adrian has, he has been coming into my room at a certain time at night with a fear, with a shadow man or a person. And he states that he's been having this for a long time. And he had brought it up to his mother before, and that she had said, you know, I get those too, and let's just not talk about it. So now that I have seen it and witnessed it and documented nights when he comes to my room scared, at one point he even said, he's here right now, he's watching me. And so I have made of going to see the psychiatrist on Monday and talk to his pediatrician to try to get some different type of help for him.
Do you feel that the needs of Adrian and Jaden have exceeded your ability to meet those needs?
It has become a lot overwhelming because I have their 5 boys and they're all in sports, exception of one, but they're all doing something. But I am like busy all the time because I do have a lot of appointments, mainly a lot based on the boys, the Martinez boys.
Okay. And
or CPS. Sorry.
Okay. So the Hernandez boys, do they have needs in addition to the needs that are held by, I guess, the Martinez boys?
Yes, just Tourette's syndrome. And when there's a lot of noise and a lot of excitement, he will become, feel the overwhelmingness, and he gets, starts ticking a lot. Jacob has anxieties that started this year, actually in August, and have become even more so. And he goes to therapy. Both of them actually are in therapy now to try to help with settling those rising emotions of overwhelming.
And at this time, you're asking the court to allow Noah to stay with you, is that correct?
Yes.
If Jaden and Adrian are moved to other placements, are you going to be able to facilitate sibling visits between Noah and his half-brothers who don't live in your home?
Of course, yes.
And then have you had any concerns about the boys when they've returned from visiting at their great-grandmother's house, Bella Marrero, on the weekends?
Any concerns?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you think that she would be able to care for the 2 older boys, or at least give it a try?
I know she loves them a lot. I've seen that, witnessed that in the past too. However, I think her age is as my mother's age, and mainly I think if anything would be Jaden's buffing up, that when he bullies his brothers, and he's had a confrontation with my husband, I can imagine what he's capable of. He doesn't have any restraint or self-control to his grandparents.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Crouch Bartlett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hernandez, at this time, are you willing to keep Adrian in your home if Jaden were placed outside of your home so that you could help with Adrian's mental health issues that he's dealing with right now.
Yes.
So immediately or by next Friday, your request of the court is to have Jaden placed outside of your home, but Adrian can remain, and you're also asking that Noah remain in your home, correct?
That's correct.
And do you think that it would be in Jaden's best interest to be placed in an emergency shelter in the Houston area or anywhere else, as opposed to being placed with family members?
That's hard to answer because I know Jaden needs to be with family, but he also has another side of him that needs some structure and some help in that kind of area. And I can't give him that. And so I don't know how to answer that because my emotions can't interfere with that, with what he really needs. He needs a very good person to give him some positive attention that he's really, really craving. And I see it here, but I have so many of the kids and we're all pulling back and forth, and he just has some different needs to be met.
How detrimental do you believe it would be if Noah were to be placed outside of your home, as is being requested by Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Martinez?
They both know very well that he has been very, very, very much in our home since very little, since, I mean, his age, very little. He's always been here. He considers also his home, even though he lived next door. He was here and he had his stuff here. I didn't even need clothes. I didn't need nothing. Everything he needed was met here at my house. And Noah is an emotional kid, and I am 100%, because I know him, he would be really, really hurt mentally if he were placed out.
And Noah is closely bonded with his other half brothers, Josh and Jacob, who live there with you all and who are not involved in this case. Is that right?
Yes, he is very, very well attached to them, and more so with Jacob because they're around the same age and they have the same interest.
And at this time, would you say that Noah is doing very well in your home?
Oh, yes. He does well. He does well in school and very well at home. He knows to maneuver he knows where everything's at.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Hernandez, you mentioned that there are no concerns with the children coming back after their weekend visits, correct?
Yeah, there's nothing, just a sugar rush. That's it.
Okay. So would you have any concerns if Jaden was to be placed with the Marreros?
No.
Okay. No further questions then, Judge.
Mr. Hilly,
Nothing additional.
Ms. Harding,
No additional questions, Your Honor.
and Ms. Crouch Barwick.
No additional questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Harding, any other witnesses you wish to call?
Mr. Hernandez, just briefly, please.
So you've identified Jose Hernandez, is that right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
I know it's Friday, everybody, but we gotta use names. Okay.
I apologize.
Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Hernandez, are you married to Olivia Hernandez?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you just hear her testify?
Yes, ma'am.
And if I asked you the same questions, would you give me the same answers?
I guess so, ma'am. I don't know. Let me hear the question.
Well, do you want Noah to stay in your home?
Oh, yes. My grandson has been with us since he was very little, off and on. When Josh was not living with Trish, he was incarcerated. We will help keep Noah with us more until my son got out. We even take him to see my son.
And Noah's half brothers, Jaden and Adrian, do you believe that it would be best for Noah and his other half siblings in your household if the department was able to find another placement for them?
Like I said, it's very hard because we care for the boys too. Decisions like that, like my wife was saying, every kid needs attention, and because we have 5 boys, we can't give everybody the attention they need. I believe Jada needs a lot of help on that.
And do you believe that currently you and your wife are unable to meet all of Jaden's, particularly his mental health needs?
No, because what he needs, and he craves a lot is individual attention. He's good when he's by himself, but just because I saw when he was living with my son that him and my son will get along, but he just needs to be to grow up somewhere where they give him a little bit more attention, especially a family member that will give him attention. Because I've talked to him when I take him to basketball practice and stuff like that.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hernandez, this is Judge Stuckey. A minute ago, in answering a question, you said the name Trish. Who is that person? Is that the mother, Patricia
yes.
Martinez?
Patricia Martinez, yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Crouch-Barlett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hernandez, just to be clear, do you think that it would be in Jaden's best interest to be placed in the home of Belia Marrero or in an emergency shelter?
No, he's got to be with family because he's already hurt because Patricia Martinez has, always been worried about Adrian, the oldest, and then when Noah came in, I felt like he was kind of just left. He feels like he's been left out because he's a middle child, and he needs family. Yes, he needs family around him. And my wife and I, we said that if it's with family, we will go pick him up and bring him to spend time with us. We just can't give him that attention that he needs because of the amount of kids that we got. And he craves individual. He's got to be. He wants love. He just wants somebody that will love him and just not share love with nobody else. At this moment, is his age. That's what he wants.
And Mr. Hernandez, are you familiar with Belia Marrero and her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have any significant concerns about her ability to take care of Jaden if he were placed in her home?
No, ma'am. No. One of the things that she has for her, she loves her grandkids. She loves her grandkids. I'll give her that. There's nothing you can take that away from her. She really loves her. You can. Above everything, I see that she loves him more than anybody else.
And Mr. Hernandez, do you believe that she would have enough support as well and amongst other family members to help give Jaden the attention that he so desperately needs?
Yes, I was hoping that the Uncle Junior, I don't know the name, David Marrero, that, I don't think he has kids, that, he would just step up a little bit and we will help at the same thing because we're willing to do this. It's a very hard decision to what we're doing right now for us. But like I said, I believe that the family member can help one of the family members.
And if Jaden were placed in an emergency shelter in the Houston area, how often would you be able to see him?
Oh, because of the amount of kids and the amount of stuff that we've been thrown into because of the needs, special needs that they have, it's very hard to. I even take more off from work in order to meet those needs because my weekends are to take them to the grandma, and then on Sunday I will take them to the mother's visitation, and then I have to wait there for the father's visitation too. So pretty much the whole week is out. I believe he needs to stay with family. I believe that. I believe that that's what he's craving. I believe it will hurt him more than what it is because I've seen him. I've seen him myself. I try to spend time with him.
Thank you, sir. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Best.
Yes, sir. You'd said that you'd hope that Mr. David Moreno would step up. You also referenced him as a junior.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Why were you hoping that he would step up?
Well, not step. My thing is, he's the only one that I can see that, and he's willing to, you know, for doing the background check and all that kind of stuff. And I can see that because I saw him when I went and picked up my grandkids on the visitation there, that he will, you know, help because he needs that love from an adult.
Okay. Had you previously been aware that David was helping with his parents' needs?
No, sir. I've just known that, you know, he goes in like a son just to help him out as, you know, whatever lawn or whatever. But not that I know. I don't know very much about it. I seen him there just to visit your mom, but I've never seen him do anything.
So you're not sure what the extent is that they require
No,
assistance from there? Okay. All right. Pass the witness.
Mr. Madwell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I just want to follow up on if Jaden was to be placed with the Moreros, would you still continue those sibling visits every weekend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so then Jaden would get to see his siblings?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay. Ms. Harding, any other witnesses? And don't forget that I believe you were the one that requested Rhonda Caffey to come. So don't forget we have her in the waiting room.
I think that was Ms. Bartlett. I have no further questions, Your Honor. No further
Okay.
witnesses.
Actually, I think you're right. Ms. Crouch Bartlett, any witnesses you wish to call?
Yes, Your Honor, I would call Rhonda Caffey.
I'm their therapist. I started seeing them at the end of January.
And do you feel like you've developed a good therapeutic relationship with all three of the boys at this point?
Yes.
And do you see them every week?
Yes.
And right now, do you think that it is in Noah's best interest to remain in the current placement with his paternal grandparents?
Yes, very much. He's extremely bonded with them and feels very safe and secure there, and he's really thriving.
And with regard to Jaden, if Jaden were to be removed from the home and placed in an emergency shelter rather than a foster home, do you think that that would be in his best interest?
No, I don't at this time. He needs a lot of structure and things, but a shelter would not be able to provide that.
And Ms. Caffey, do you believe that wraparound services such as Casey Family Programs or something similar, Austin Angels, something like that, would be very helpful to the family and helpful to Jaden if he were placed in the home of Belia Marrero, his great-grandmother?
Yes, it would be urgent that those wraparound services be provided.
Okay. And with regard to Adrian, do you believe that it's in Adrian's best interest right now to remain in the current placement so that he can have his mental health needs addressed?
Yes, I do.
And if the family is willing to keep him in the home, do you believe that absolutely he should remain in the current placement?
I do. The difficulty is if Jaden were to go with the great grandmother where Adrian also wants to go, that could be really hard for him. That's the only difficulty. Mm-hmm. Adrian has developed a good bond with Olivia and Jose, and he trusts her enough to share some very troubling things that are happening with him that are going to be addressed with the psychiatrist on Monday. And those are very concerning.
Well, do you have any reason to doubt that Adrian would not be spending a lot of time in Belia Marrero's home if Jaden were placed there? Do you have any reason to doubt that he would be also spending time there?
Oh, no, he could definitely go for visitations and things all the time. Yeah.
And would that be helpful for him?
Very much.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Best?
Yes, ma'am. Have you ever met with Belia Moreno?
With the great grandmother? I have not.
Yes. Okay. Have you reviewed CPS's home study by chance on the great grandparents?
I have not reviewed it in person. Amanda has told me about the home study.
Okay. And so you're aware that the home study was denied?
I am.
Okay. Are you aware of why it was denied?
Yes.
Okay. What is your understanding of why it was denied?
A number of reasons. Part of it because of the age and health of the grandparents, and the fact that she's not able, the grandmother, I'm calling her the grandmother. I know she's the great grandmother, but they refer to her as the grandmother, has to have a lot of help just to meet her own needs. And so there was a concern that she would not be able to meet the needs of the teenager, the young man.
Okay.
Boy.
And do you think that that's an important consideration in determining whether or not a child should be placed there?
I do.
Okay. And so what makes you feel that the great grandparents would still be an appropriate placement, even though they have significant health issues of their own?
Well, it would be like we just recommended. They'd have to have a lot of wraparound services in order for this to work. I firmly believe that. I would continue as the therapist. Adrian, if he were to, well, Jaden is on medication also, would need to definitely continue with the psychiatrist. There definitely need to be something like Austin Angels that could provide mentors for them, and services, and Casey Family Program would be an excellent choice.
Okay. So you don't think that it's possible for them to do it without that kind of assistance? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Thank you. Miss Kathy, in regards to Adrian, you said that he wants to go to the Marrero's home?
Yes, he has indicated that's where he, has a very close relationship with them. He does not want to leave his school, but there, I don't see any way possible for both of those things to happen at the same time. Okay. And so if the court was to place Adrian with the Marreros today and with Jaden, would that be something that you would be in support of as long as they had those wraparound services? Well, I definitely do not think any placement should happen today. Everyone has agreed that we could wait until next Friday because it's urgent that Olivia be a part of the psychiatrist visit that's happening on Monday for the medications, because Adrian is having severe problems with sleeping and some possible schizophrenia, and that's urgent. But that be a part. Let me clarify. I'm not saying placement today, but if the court were here today, if the court ordered today that was to take place here in the near future, would you be in support of it as long as those wraparound services were in place? Yes. Okay. All right. No further questions, Judge.
Okay, Ms. Krause-Bartlett, any other witnesses you wish to call?
Yes, Your Honor. I would call Rob Edwards with CASA.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Edwards, how are you familiar with Adrian, Noah, and Jaden?
I am the assigned CASA supervisor for this case.
Okay. And are you prepared to make recommendations about placement for all three of the children right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And with regard to Adrian, where do you believe it would be in Adrian's best interest to be placed?
At this time, it would be CASA's recommendation that Adrian remain in his current placement. I think that it would be imperative for him to stay there in order to get some progress made toward his mental health stability. And so I think that it would be, while it's not an intended long-term placement for him, I do think that is the best placement option for him right now.
And with regard to Noah, where do you believe that Noah would be in his best interest to be placed?
I also think it would be in Noah's best interest for him to remain in his current placement.
And with regard to Jaden, what is CASA's position with regard to where Jaden should be placed at this time, since the current placement is asking that he be placed outside of their home within the next week?
While CASA does understand that the department has concerns regarding the Marrero placement, and we share some of those same concerns, in weighing the best interest for Jaden, I do think placement in the Marrero home has greater benefit to Jaden rather than the other identified placement at this time, being an emergency shelter in Houston. I do think that there are a number of steps that could be taken to help alleviate some of the concerns. I wouldn't be asking that any placement change happen before the end of school next week, as it would be the week prior to spring break. And I think during the course of the next week, we could be working on trying to identify different relative support options, familial options, as well as community resources that could help the Marrero family if we place Jaden there, to ensure that all of his needs are met. But I would not like to see him moved to a shelter at this time.
And Mr. Edwards, do you believe that if the child advocates in the department and even Ms. Harding, and that all of the parties and attorneys involved could get their heads together to help ensure that there are wraparound services to help this family, that Jaden would be best to be placed in the home of Belia Marrero?
Yes, I do. I do think that there would be some department policies that may prevent them from agreeing to such a placement. However, I do think that again, steps could be taken and resources could be implemented to help reduce the amount of concern that the department and CASA have regarding placement in the Marrero home.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Best,
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Manuel.
I'll be brief, Judge. Mr. Edwards, you made a comment that when speaking about Adrian, you want him to stay in his current placement, but I believe you said that may not be a long-term placement option. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so if he's to move in the future, would you want to consider the Marreros as placement for Adrian as well?
That is something that I would certainly consider. I would like to, again, working with different resources, be able to make sure that the Marrero family could help maintain any and all medical appointments, mental health appointments for Jaden, because I do think that both Jaden and Adrian will need continued support. But yes, placement in the Marrero home is something that we would certainly consider in the future.
Okay, and if you know, do you know where Adrian wants to live? Has he said that to CASA?
I have not personally asked him that question, so I cannot speak to that.
Okay, no further questions then, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Crouch-Barlett, any other witnesses you wish to call?
No, Your Honor. No additional witnesses. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that concludes these two motions. Ms. Harding, if you'll tell me, it's been a few days since I read your petition intervention, what grounds you claimed for the intervention for Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, and as to which children?
Your Honor, as to Noah, they have standing under 102.004, and that they have standing to file an original petition if the present circumstances would significantly impair the child's physical health or emotional development, which I know is kind of a stretch, but we're here in a CPS land because their circumstances with their parents would significantly impair their physical health or emotional development, which brings us under the next provision of that standings. In addition, Your Honor, although not specifically pled, I would argue that we also have standing to file a standalone termination and adoption, which my clients do not want to do, but they have the standing and ability to do it because they've had actual possession of all of these children for more than 2 months of the last 3 months, and or have had substantial past contact with all of these children. So they have standing under a variety of means. They're trying to work with the family, with their son and his current partner. Sorry, lights are going off at the courthouse. We have standing under those provisions, Your Honor, and are asking leave to intervene in this case so that their voices can be heard and they can have a say in the end results regarding their grandson, Noah.
Ms. Harding, I think you're about to get locked in the courthouse. You might want to make
I
sure.
probably am about to get locked in the courthouse, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Best, was the department opposed to Ms. Harding's client's intervention today?
I previously announced we are, but we're not, Your Honor. I consulted with my client a little bit more about it during the hearing, and we're not.
Mr. Manuel, are you still opposed to?
Yes,
Mr.
Your
and Mrs.
Honor,
Hernandez's?
we're opposed because obviously my client does not believe that she is a danger or a detriment to her children, to their physical or mental health, and that she is working those services with the department to get her children back. The permanency plan is family reunification with a parent at this time. And so we would ask that this intervention not be granted at this time.
Mr. Hilly, anything else to the intervention?
I adopt so mother's attorney's arguments. I'm aligned with him. Thank you.
Ms. Crouch-Bartlett?
Your Honor, as I stated earlier in opening, I strongly support the intervention by Olivia and Jose Hernandez. They clearly have standing, and it would not be in the best interest of the children to return to either parent. So I would support their intervention.
Okay. So, Ms. Harding, are your clients seeking to intervene as to the entirety of the case, as to all 3 boys? Because it doesn't seem like they, or maybe you can remind me which children in this current case they're seeking placement of or to keep. I just want to make sure I have all the facts straight.
Your Honor, they are the grandparent of Noah, and that, to be quite honest, is their primary concern. So going forward, they want to be able, but I don't think this case is limited to him. Just like if you had Adrian and Jaden's father here, they would be a part of this case, just like Mr. Hernandez is a part of this case, even though he's only the biological father of Noah. So we want to be able to be full participants in this case, but at this time, their primary concern is keeping Noah in their home. They're willing to keep all of the boys until the break for next Friday because of this reasonable and rational break of spring break that happens next week. And so that they can assist in getting Jaden and Adrian to the psychiatrist to get those assessments made. I think they're
okay,
willing.
thank you, Ms. Harding. Okay, so at this time, based upon the argument of counsel and the testimony I have previously heard, I am going to allow the intervention by Jose and Olivia Hernandez as to all 3 children. So they are interveners for the case in its entirety. What I'd like to do now is hear closing arguments and statements as to the relief requested under the motion for change of placement and the motion for further orders. One of the things that I want to hear specifically is what each person's plan is for the children. And I mean, specific place, specific person, or, if it's a shelter, it's a shelter. But I want to know what the plan is for tonight. And then it sounds like that, there's some agreement if there were to be moves that, let's say a week from now or 10 days from now, there would be something else. But I want to hear some specificity as to what people are requesting, because a lot of this seems, I would say there seems to be a lot of assumptions in this case. Like, someone assumes that someone's going to do something else. If they were to do that, then I'd be in agreement with that. So let's kind of focus on, what's going to happen. We'll say, today or tomorrow, and then potentially 7 to 10 days from now. Mr. Best, I'll let you begin.
Our request is that Jaden be allowed to stay in the current placement until March 10th, at which point we would want to move him to the shelter that was referenced. I believe it's in Houston. We would like to leave Noah and Adrian in the home with Olivia and Jose Hernandez, which I believe is their current placement, Your Honor. That is our request at this time.
Mr. Manuel.
Your Honor, my client would like to keep her children together. She is asking that all 3 of them be moved to the Marreros. I believe there was significant testimony today from a lot of different people that Jaden should go to the Marreros and stay with family. There's testimony that even if Adrian stays in his current placement with the Hernandezes, that may be a short-term placement option. And so we would be asking that Adrian also be placed with the Marreros. And I understand that the Hernandezes want to keep Noah, and that is their biological grandchild. However, again, my client wants to keep her 3 children together. She wants them to have each other to lean on and not just see each other on the weekends. And so that is our position today.
Mr. Hilly.
My client wants placement of all 3 together with the Marreros. They are very much capable, have been all their lives, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Ms. Harding.
Your Honor, we're asking that Noah stay with the Hernandezes for the duration of this case at this time. We're asking that we be able to assist with Adrian and Jaden's psychiatric services, cares, and appointments that are set for next week, and that if possible, Jaden and Adrian both be transitioned out to Bella Morero's house. And I believe that they will continue as best they can to support those 2 boys in that placement, if at all possible.
Ms. Crouch-Warland.
Thank you, Your Honor. My client Noah has been very clear since the first time that I spoke with him about where he wants to live and who he wants to live with, and that is with Jose and Olivia Hernandez. You have heard everyone, or certainly the professionals, testify that is what's in his best interest. So I think it's very important that Noah remain in the current home with Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez. Jaden has specifically requested from me that he be placed in the home of Belia Marrero. He expressed that immediately. When I asked him, where is the number 1 place you would like to live? He said, with my grandmother, and he was referring to his great-grandmother, Belia Marrero. It clearly would be detrimental to his best interest to be placed in an emergency shelter. His individual therapist testified that would be detrimental to him, in addition to the guardian ad litem, because it is not a structured environment. And with wraparound services, Your Honor, I believe that Jaden would be perfectly safe and well cared for in the home of Belia Marrero. As for Adrian, I would ask that he be allowed liberal visitation with Belia Marrero, but that he remain in the home of Olivia and Jose Hernandez so long as they're willing to keep him there.
Ms. Barr, let me pause for a minute. I just heard Ms. Harding's request that those 2 boys, Jaden and Adrian, be transitioned out. So with that in mind, what is it that you want to do with Adrian? Because the placement doesn't sound like they currently want them beyond, another few days.
Your Honor, this is based on the testimony of both Olivia Hernandez and her husband Jose, indicating that that Adrian should, or I apologize, that Olivia Hernandez testified that Jaden or that Adrian would be could remain in the home for his immediate mental health needs. Perhaps a transition plan could be instituted at the end of the school year. But if they are not willing to keep him in the home, then yes, he should be placed in the home of Belia Marrero. And he has expressed to me that he would be happy to be placed there in the home of his great-grandmother.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crush Bartlett. So, Ms. Harding, I just want to make sure I'm clear on your client's desires. And I'm not asking them to keep or kick anyone out. I just want to make sure that I understand that. Let's say we're talking about 2 weeks from now or even 30 days from now, what is their desire as to Adrian? And we can ask them if you rather defer to them.
My understanding, and they can correct me as I'm wrong, is they would prefer that if they think that Adrian and Jaden would be best served by being moved to Mereda's. I'm sorry if I'm not saying her name right, but that great-grandmother's house. Because if the alternative is that we're going to end up looking at putting them in an emergency shelter, they are willing to keep Adrian until we have another place for him to go. But that they just cannot handle Jaden's behaviors and needs in their home. They think they may be able to handle Adrian's.
Okay, so Ms. Hernandez, do you agree with everything your attorney, Ms. Harding, said? I just want to make sure I'm straight on you and your husband's desires.
Are we unmuted? Yes, we do. We are seeking Noah's placement here, and we are actually requesting the movement of Jaden. I am very concerned about Adrian, and I do want to help him get to those medical appointments, the support he needs, and I will assure that. And even if it does last till the end of school. But
Okay.
it is Adrian's desire. I've asked him that he does want to go with his family, but he does have those needs also that need to be met. That's what I'm attaching to right now, to keeping him here, because I want to make sure he gets those needs met.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hernandez. I appreciate that.
And Your Honor, I am being chased out, so I'm going to turn off the camera so that I can.
Go ahead, Ms. Harding.
Your Honor, I did just want to make sure it was clear that it is my client's intention to continue to search for an alternate placement that would be more appropriate for the child until the 10th, at least. Just try to, if it's after, obviously the shelter in Houston is not the perfect place as far as a foster home is concerned, and we'd prefer to keep looking in between now and the 10th to see if we can find something a little more appropriate for Jaden.
Okay, Ms. Wardlow, I know part of this is the department was operating under the orders that the children not be separated. So, Ms. Wardlow, if I was to leave Noah in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, would it be more or less? Would it be easier or the same, we'll say, to get Jaden and Adrian into, a potential foster home versus a shelter, since the department does not desire that those two children be placed with the Marrero family?
Obviously, with any child placement search, the fewer children, the easier. And the Houston shelter option became a choice because we had searched for all three children together. So there very well may be something that's closer, given if it's only the two siblings instead of all three.
Do you know what the current level of care is for Jaden and Adrian?
They're both currently at a basic level of care because they are with a kinship placement. Ms. Swafford did request a moderate level of care increase for Jaden, I believe, and at this point, but I don't believe it's come back from YFT.
Okay, so it's now 5 o'clock. I understand that we do need to wrap this up, but these are some very important decisions. So I want to kind of go through just one more time through the attorneys and make sure there's not something else that you want me to hear today before I make decisions. Mr. Best?
No, Your Honor, I believe this is I believe the only thing left is the placement, whether or not you're going to require them to remain together. I think those are the only issues we've got.
Okay, Mr. Manuel?
I would just reiterate, my client wants them all to stay together. In the alternative, we would want Jaden and Adrian both transitioned into the Marrero's home.
Mr. Hilly?
All together with the Marreros.
Okay. Ms. Harding, you're on the move. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Your Honor, I can hear you now, but I didn't exactly hear what your question was.
Okay, so basically I want to say these are very important decisions. I asked a couple extra questions here at the end. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something else you wanted to argue or tell me before I made decisions.
No, Your Honor, I think we got it covered.
Okay, Ms. Crouch-Barlow.
Your Honor, I'd just like to reemphasize how critically important it is for Noah to remain in the home of his biological paternal grandparents and his other two biological siblings, not be moved if Adrian and Jaden are both going to be placed elsewhere. If that is the order of the court, that Noah must remain in his current placement. And that I do not believe that it is in the best interest of Jaden or Adrian to be placed in a shelter. Thank you.
Ms. Crouch-Barlow, do you know when Jaden and Adrian are having their psychologicals done?
Your Honor, those have been done. Additionally, they had psychiatric evaluations, and all three of the boys had psychiatric evaluations. And Adrian was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, as was Noah. Jaden did not have any significant diagnoses, but he is obviously the child right now who's having the most difficulties and filled with a lot of anger.
Okay, so I had written in my notes that there was to be more like mental health appointments next week. Did I incorrectly write that down?
That's correct, Your Honor. Adrian is attending an appointment with a psychiatrist for medication because he has been hearing voices and seeing the shadow man frequently. I think Ms. Swafford can maybe give a little more detail about exactly what that encompasses, but I think that that there is an appointment on Monday for Adrian. Noah is actually an appointment for his hearing on Monday as well.
Okay, Ms. Swafford, I'm interested in what the boys have, as far as appointments, we'll say over the next week or two.
Okay. So Noah has an MRI scheduled on Monday to check his hearing loss. Both Jaden and Adrian have a psychiatric follow-up with Pathways, Dr. Ibad on Monday. In addition, Adrian's school is trying to set up an ARD for him prior to spring break, as I provided them all of his assessments, and they're willing to put him in special education without further testing. So we would like him to be able to have that completed, as another school district might want to, have the 45 days, then test him, and it would be delayed probably until next school year. So that is a possible appointment next week, and as well as their regular therapy. I don't know if you want to know their soccer practice and basketball practice, but they also have that next week. But the major is the psychiatric and the education.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Swafford. That's very helpful. Okay, so again,
Your
these
Honor,
are
I
the orders.
apologize for this.
Yes, Mr.
Sorry,
Edwards.
this is Rob Edwards with CASA. If this is my last opportunity to speak, I would have one more request, that if the court does approve for Jaden and Adrian to move to the Marrero house, the placement will likely not be able to qualify for any kind of financial assistance with a denied home study. So I would ask that the court order child support be paid by the mother to the Marrero home to help support the children.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. Okay, so today's orders that I am entering again are that Jose and Olivia Hernandez's intervention is allowed, so they are now parties to this case. I am going to order that Noah remain in the home of Jose and Olivia Hernandez. As far as Jaden and Adrian, I'm going to take that portion of the case under advisement based upon what I have heard. There are a lot of appointments that are going to be going on Monday in the next few days. So I will issue a written decision as to their placement. It's not a question of whether they're going to move. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez are sound like they're on board with move, like having a transition and helping with that. I am going to move Jaden and Adrian. It's just whether I'm going to move them to the Marrero home or move them somewhere else. So again, as to the placement for Jaden and Adrian, they'll remain in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez until they no longer want them there. But I'm going to issue my orders as to their placement over the next few days. So today is Friday the 3rd. I would be looking for a decision from me by next Wednesday. So by the end of the business day on Wednesday, that would be. This is a very difficult case. And I think it's complicated even further by the testimony of the boy's therapist. When Miss Caffey, who I know well because she testifies very frequently in our cases, she is very experienced, working with children in CPS care. When she comes in and testifies that, she didn't seem to have any doubt in her mind that any type of shelter would not be able to meet the needs that Jaden had at this point. So it makes it very difficult for me to potentially go along with the department's request of a shelter placement. As to the Marrero home, I'm going to spend some more time looking at that home study that I believe is in the file, and I'll make a decision over the next few days. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I know this is very hard for y'all to make yourselves available on a Friday afternoon. I do appreciate it. I think your advocacy is very good today, and I'll be making some tough decisions, but we're going to try to do what's best for Noah, Jaden, and Adrian. So thank you again, everyone, for being here today. You may be excused at this time.
I had a question for your honor. Would you be open to getting some kind of advisement or report if we are able to find some sort of an alternate placement in the next few days? Would you be open to that, or is that not something that?
No, I mean, you can submit that. Just make sure it goes to everybody else. Obviously, I don't want any ex parte communications. So anything you would send to the court, make sure it goes to everybody else. And that goes for everybody. If somebody else has a potential placement over the next few days and you like to submit that as a letter to the court, please serve it on everybody. And, I will take that into consideration.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You may be excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.